Generic yet polite salutations to one and all. I am Trent Mayfair, the itinerant LARPer, coming to you from my brother-in-law's couch. He was nice enough to allow me to shoot the video here, as well as rest here after my LARP this past weekend. Now I must start this video off with an apology, because I was at the Pittsburgh role-playing organization the week before I released my introductory video, and I neglected to mention them. Now, one must remember that getting to a LARP is half the fun, and this is a beautiful country, and so I have actually taken the time to write down a few of my thoughts that I had while I was driving into the Pittsburgh role-playing organization, or PRO as they call themselves. So, one of my most predominant thoughts was just how beautiful the scenery was. I mean, going through Pennsylvania is a gorgeous drive. Plenty of places to stop off, get stuff to eat if you want, not just like the gas stops aside the highways, but also if you're willing to go a little bit further, you can find some wonderful diners, some amazing hole-in-the-wall restaurants that serve the best food you will ever eat, as well as many, many other attractions that you would never even think would be out there. There's many mines, there's a lot of geological stuff, there is natural parks, lots of things for people to do. Though, it is a bit long, and that is the second thing that I took note of, was this drive does seem like it's taking a long time, especially since I had to cross the entire state. That was a fun drive, but it was long. And I'm not going to deny that what made it long was some of the traffic that I hit. Everybody hates traffic, but it really sucks to be driving along the highway and then to hit a city and everything just dead stops because there's no reason, actually. It just seems to stop on its own for whatever reason. But then as I actually finally got past Pittsburgh, I actually found the campsite, and it was a pretty long drive into the woods. And I remember that one of my first thoughts actually getting through the woods, beyond like, okay, am I actually in the right place, was, this is how horror movies start. Yeah, I'm probably in the right place. And then I saw, a bunch of friendly, welcoming people who were dressed in similar outfit, and I realized, oh, yes, I'm definitely in the right place now. But they all seem very happy. I'm pretty sure this is how a horror movie starts. Now, admittedly, I did get to the event a little bit late. I kind of mistimed things because of the aforementioned traffic. But the administration was wonderful. They sat down with me and they took an hour to 2 hours to walk me through every aspect of character creation and how my character would work. I did get passed off once. I'm definitely not going to fault them on that. I had plenty of questions, and some people can answer certain questions better than others can. That's not an issue. The fact that they knew to pass me off is actually a very good thing, because people have to be willing to admit when they don't know something, when there's somebody who's better qualified, and that is exactly what happened in this case. Now, the GM and his staff and the associate GMs were very upfront with me about where they felt the game was strong and where they felt the game was weak. And that did definitely give me things to focus on. But beyond that, I could not help but notice just how coordinated the administration was. It was coordinated doesn't even begin to cover it. No matter what was going on, they could trust each other. They trusted each other to know the world intrinsically and to make moves within the world that the others would agree with, whether or not permission had been given. This is a rare thing, and this is a type of trust that is only born out of having gone through some severe trauma, like separating off from your initial game. But they actually have a wonderfully coordinated administration, and they have top props from me on that one. I definitely learned a lot from them, and I'll get into the things that I learned a little bit later. But before that, I would like to talk a little bit about the rulebook. So this rulebook I found to be highly intuitive. It was very much you read it and you realize, oh, okay, this is what it's meant to be. This is a very difficult thing to do with a LARP rulebook because you're basically trying to describe actions for many people to mimic, and everybody reads, interprets, and learns things differently. So, to have a rulebook that most people at the game say, oh yes, very highly intuitive, I picked it up, I read through it, and I knew what to do, is a very big achievement. I was able to do it as well without having to rely on any of my gaming experience. This is a wonderful thing to see in the game. Simplicity, intuition within the rulebook. The fact that their system allows you to walk in as a new player with either a certain degree of power or a certain degree of diversity in your capabilities was a wonderful aspect to it as well. Most games, you walk in on your first game, you can expect most of the time to be spent lying face down in the dirt. The aspect of diversity versus power is a thing that weighs on game masters very heavily. And they truly have a good balance with it. I walked in as a healer character, and compared to other healers, I was actually fairly powerful, healing 6 points of health for another person's 3 or 4, even though that person had been there for a number of games. However, that was all that I could really do. I just had a lot of healing capability because that's what I focused in. There were other people who only had the healing for 3 or 4 who could wield the weapons and cast the magics and everything like that. So they had the diversity that I lacked, but I had the power that they lacked. And this created a very unique class system wherein people were diverse to the point where even the same setup did not necessarily mean the same numbers. This is a wonderful thing as well, and definite props to the LARP administration for coordinating a rulebook that can actually work like this. And that now brings us to the player base. So, this group is a welcoming group. They are just the right amount of open-minded to be a positive influence when they're in character. But, well, quite honestly, I can't really fault them on this one. The heat index was so high on the weekend that I went there that even I was unable to maintain character for very long, so I cannot fault them for being out of character for most of the time that I was there. When it feels like it's 105 with 100% humidity index and it's not raining, yeah, you don't even really want to go out into the woods and fight. You will, but you don't really want to. You just kind of want to sit around in the shade and drink water. So I definitely can't fault them for being out of character so much, but there was still plenty to talk about. There's still a wonderful group of people. They were highly welcoming of new players. The established groups went out of their way to include as many new players as possible, but were very respectful of the people who didn't want to go into something at a given time. So if you did not feel like going on a mod, they respected that choice. And that's an important thing as well. It gets very daunting when you are constantly being besieged by, come out on this mod, come out, we have this to fight, come out with us. I just got back, I want to sit down, I want to drink some water, I want to rest. This group of players was very respectful of that, as was the administration. And I got the feeling that was not just because of the heat, that was a general consent aspect of the game and the society that is formed within that game. So, and like I said, well, people did tend to be out of character quite a bit. When on the mods, they were totally in character. And they were all in. The level of roleplay that I was seeing out in the battlefield and in the caves and on the puzzles and everything like that was phenomenal. And I wish that I could have seen more of it, but again, I understand because in a heat index like that, nobody wants to deal with it. So, To sum up my experiences, Pittsburgh Role-Playing Organization was a wonderful LARP, and I would highly recommend it to anybody in the Pittsburgh area who is looking for a medieval fantasy-style LARP. The combat is good, the players are wonderful, the rulebook is easy to understand, and the administration knows what they are doing and actually is coordinated. The things that I've learned. So, talking to many players, the one thing that I definitely learned is that you have to give leeway to your players on things like staying in character and stuff like that. Set up some out-of-game areas so that way they can just kind of congregate and chat and meet with their friends and stuff like that. This will help to mitigate the amount of out-of-game talk in your playing field. Insofar as what I learned about LARPing from the administration, if you're not having fun alongside your players amidst your duties to running the game, you're missing the point of running a game. The level of camaraderie between players and those running the game was absolutely beautiful to witness, as an example of what LARP should strive for. Game administrators had their characters out and about often, but were not the end-all be-all of any mod or hook. Sure, they absolutely acted as plot hooks, but that's part of their job. How else do the players know to go out to the various things? But they weren't, being the heroes. They were support for the players. So even when they were going into a mod with us, they weren't the champion of the mod. They were making the players the champions. And that's what it's really about. It's all about the players. Isn't that right, Miss Kitty?